Screen visible. Thank you. Okay, guys, perfect. Welcome back to our third session. Apologies for the delay again, but I think sometimes anyway we'll try to be more proactive, from all next sessions to see that this doesn't happen again. But anyway, so guys, correct me. We had done these slides, right? Team transformation from waterfall into agile. I think we were just about discussing this slide when we logged off. Is that right? So I think we had covered we had stepped into the software development life cycle. Yeah. We finished the waterfall methodology. We went into agile and adaptive methodology. We turned ourselves into the team transformation, where we discussed that how a waterfall team gets converted to agile in terms of multi teams, where each team is like a feature team. Yeah, so team one is developing certain features, team two is developing certain features, and so on and on. Yep, full screen will do that. Full screen. Yep. Okay, let's go full screen. Okay, so guys, where are we now? We are trying to understand in terms of software development life cycle. So we are in that phase of our business analysis where we are just going through the very fundamentals and basics of business analysis. We did learn quite a few things, but business analyst is essentially needs to have a clear understanding about the software development part as well, because immediately as a step next to business analysis is obviously the development part. So we are right now into that part where we are understanding the development phase. We are understanding waterfall. We are shifting to agile. We have basically understood the very basics of agile. Okay. I want to give you a very simple and a quick example on agile approach. So guys, this is, this is Bangalore city for you. Yeah. The project is to build a flyover on a very busy crossroad. Yeah. Now, probably this is the simplest example because it clearly demonstrates that how taking up projects in an agile perspective help. Now, there's a very busy road. The idea is to construct a flyover on top of it. Yeah. And in a traditional waterfall way, what will happen is that, a team led by the development authorities, they will start the construction of the overbridge in one go, which means they will start construction from one end. They'll probably take, let's assume, 2 years, and they will go to the other end, right? And that way, with a big bang, they will open up the flyover to the entire, kind of public transport. Yeah. This was the earlier way of doing it. Yeah. There was nothing called an incremental delivery of project, which means you build some minimum product which the public transport can enjoy before you build the next phases of your project, just like the way we do in agile. So agile is also called incremental delivery, right? Where we start delivering the project in small increments. Okay. So in a waterfall methodology, guys, the overbridge or the flyover will start from one end. You will build both sides of the road. Okay. And then you will finish to the other end. Time taken 2 years. This was a agile part where they started building the bridge for one direction, okay, of the flyover, opened it up to public, and then they started developing the other side of the road. Okay, this is how it looks like. So they constructed one half of the overbridge or the flyover first. Yeah. Then they opened it up to the transportation. And while the transports each direction started using half the road, but at least the traffic was moving. And once they completed this side of the road, then they jumped to developing the right side of portion of the flyover. Yeah, this is what we called a product of incremental delivery. Incremental is step by step going forward, right? Now, this incremental delivery helped customer to use the flyover in 9 months instead of waiting almost 2 years for a big bang approach. Okay, so this is how we give a very small example, but it's a very practical side of the story because the public started using the flyover in 9 months flat, at least the half of the side of it. So at least the traffic was going one way, or it is being used two ways before the rest half was developed. Yep. Okay. Keep your attention on, guys, on the sliders. Okay. Just one sec. Mm, Okay. If you ask me, what are the metrics or key performance indicators of an agile project? Okay, maybe a little early for you to understand, but I just wanted to give you a view. If you say, hey, I would switch my style of development of projects into agile, but what is the productivity I'm getting? So guys, typically the productivity which we get are like this. The delivered work has less of a defect rate. Okay, second, and the most important part of agile is in the benefit side, where we have a faster time to market. Okay, so imagine either the Bangalore public would have waited for 2 years to enjoy that flyover. Now they had to wait only for 9 months. Yeah, because of the faster delivery. Okay, because you just broke up the entire project into two portions. One portion is to develop the left side, one portion is to develop the right side. When you develop the left side of the flyover and open it to limited public transport, I call it minimum viable product. So MVP is something which is a minimum critical mass of products that is developed by agile and delivered. That's why everybody loves agile, because they get to taste the product at least in some time and they don't have to wait very long. This is, guys, what is called time to market. Very strategically important aspect of agile. So while you are the budding business analyst, okay, to begin with, remember, making sure that your team works in an agile perspective when they are doing the application or software development is very important. Because what happens is, because your time to market is less, obviously you end up giving a larger business value. Because you deliver a higher business value, the customer is more happy, and that results in an end user satisfaction. Okay, if I look at the delivery commitments, I see that on my left, for example, is a waterfall development project. On my right is an agile development project. If I see the release scope deviation, which means that I promised to release the project into a go live phase by, let's say, August. If I take waterfall, guys, the percentage deviation that I will miss my timeline is higher than agile. So if my commitment is August, typically what has been seen, experienced in the industry, waterfall may get delayed by maybe 20%, 30%. But the delay when you're using agile methodologies for delivery of project is typically way lesser than waterfall. So it's not just a empirical, it's not just a theoretical exercise anymore. We've seen it time and again, being worked out in the industry across the projects of different areas, and hence that has become like a delivery commitment. So you say, hey, what are the three important part of my project? I will say timeline, cost, and scope. When we say the scope part, I would say you promised me this much of scope, you delivered me the same scope, you are 100% on scope. Okay. Typically, in a waterfall, remember we discussed on the weaknesses of waterfall. Waterfall is something where a business analyst is taking its entire timeline to find the requirements. Now, whether the requirements are right or wrong, okay, We are hoping that they are right as taken from the stakeholders. And eventually, when you're able to develop the right product for it, we test the product, and then hopefully the functionality which you have developed in the system is same as what was asked for by the business in the first place. So we will say yes, the requirements are exactly the same as the product that you have developed and given to the business, right? So that's where we say the release scope deviation is less, where we say the effort indicated, which means the effort to develop the same scope, whether it is less or more, we generally have seen it is way less in agile. All right. I would like to bring your attention to volatility. So, you know what is volatile, right? Which is quick to explode. Now, the scope management in a as in a development of a waterfall is more volatile. You've understood, right? How the scope keeps changing. That is called the volatility of the scope. Okay, it keeps changing very often, and by the time that you have developed some specification, it changes again. So that led to a lot of ups and downs in the project, and that's where we started saying, hey guys, waterfall doesn't really work. But you've seen that how agile is more capable to handle changes which are coming in the projects, right? And that is how we say agile project is more capable to handle the volatility which is coming from scope management. So remember, guys, change will happen. Business is always prone to change, so they will keep changing their requirements nevertheless. If you are doing the project in agile life cycle, you will be much more equipped to handle the change. Okay. I think this is a bit of just a quick view. I don't want to go into details of the slide because these kind of detailings are pretty much going to come into your module 2, which is the agile part of the story anyways. All right, just give me a sec, guys. I'm sorry, guys. Somebody had just walked in, but yeah, and that was a little important to talk to them. Okay. So, guys, why am I showing you this slide? This slide is all about to show you four things. What is from an initiation perspective? What is from a sprint zero, sprint one, eventual deployment? Now, remember, we are running sprints to develop these projects, right? So in the sprints, what we do is that we develop a certain features of the product. That's sprint one for you. We are able to complete those features. We go to the next sprint where we develop the next set of features for the product. Sprint after sprint, we complete, let's say, few sprints, and then we develop the whole product. We call it a scrum, which means, hey, this scrum had 6 sprints, 2 weeks each. So typically in 12 weeks, we were able to develop the whole product, right? And then we put it into a deployment. Of course, before every sprint, there is going to be an initiation or a planning phase. Because remember, in the planning phase, we will say, we have to develop so and so scope of this product. Okay. These are 18 features that we have to develop. First, we have to pull up teams which will take up individual features, which we will say, let's say we have 3 sprint teams. There are a total of 18 features. We will give 6 features to each of the sprint teams. They will be like-minded features so that we are able to club that like-mindedness of the design, coding, testing into the same feature team. Yeah. So that's how we will split them into sprints. So team one is doing the, let's say, you remember we discussed a small example of Nokia phones. Yeah. So just to give you a quick refresh, 6 7 years back I was with Nokia. We are developing the slimmest phone in the century of mankind, and we said, okay, it has to be a great phone. Fine, there will be outer features, there will be inner features. Inner features are your motherboard and your chip design. Outer features are of your aesthetics, how you want to do the edges, how slim you want to keep the phone, what are the limited number of menu or tabs or buttons you want to give on top of your phone. Okay, so these were two different feature teams which we framed. All the external features went to feature team number one, all the internal features went to feature team number two. Obviously, the total requirements for that phone was about, let's say, 20 numbers, 10 for internal features, 10 for external. So the feature team number one got 10 features to develop. They decided that they will need around 3 sprints minimum to develop the number of features. Then we said 3 sprints, which means the 10 features have to be done in 3 sprints, which means at least 3 features per sprint. And 3 features per sprint were to be done in about, typically about 3 to 4 weeks. In there, the sprint cycle time was larger. Okay, so that's how, guys, we went about. So all the planning part, internal external features, which has team has to integrate it with external partner vendor to take that support to develop that feature, right? All was done in the initiation phase. So if you see here, we do here overall management plan, roles, responsibilities, testing approach. Okay, and then we did this. What I did now was, when I said, hey, there are 20 features, 10 internal, 10 external, we call it product backlog. Sorry. Oh, I think, never mind. I think the machine is a bit hanged on the screen. So we'll be continuing the discussion. So we call this product backlog. What is the product backlog? We said, hey, internal features, external features. So through the users, we got this user stories, which told us that how much of features they want to develop. Yeah, and the number of features were all collected together. So I said I got 20 user stories. Yeah, and the 20 user stories develop themselves into these features, which we said we will split into the sprints. So product backlog. So it's not typical of backlog in the true sense, right? Backlog is where you are left out with certain features. Here, the collation of total number of features to develop a product itself is called backlog. So I had a backlog of 20 features. Okay, I used 10 for the external, 10 for the internal part. but all that backlog planning of what are those 20 features we have to develop in order to shape up our cell phone is what we called product backlog refinement. That was also done during the initiation phase itself. Yep. All right. Looks like the machine is hung. Ah, it's back. Okay. All right. Let's go. So, guys, this is what I want to show you as a fantastic view of agile. The requirements are collected together, right? So then your build up one was internal features, build up two was your external, build up three was on a different aspect of the product feature development. And if you see, my feature team number one went into design, development, testing, go live. Internal features of motherboard, chip design, circuitry, networking, they went into build up number two, where again, design, development, testing, implementation. Okay. Now you see here is guys, there are three different teams working to develop separate features. When the separate features come in together, your product is ready. This is now running in parallel. One of the strong features of Agile, where we split the teams in parallel nodes. So in parallel perspective, the things run. Okay. And that's how when they all the parallel teams come together with their respective final product, we combine that into the total product. So what is each team doing, guys? Each team is developing a minimum product from an external features perspective, from an internal features perspective, and so on and on. This technique of developing minimum viable products to cater to the different functionalities of the product, bringing them together, collating them together, and generating the final product, which normally ends up taking almost maybe 50% of the total time if you would have taken the waterfall technique. So agile coaches, or let's say agile business analysts, are smart because of the one reason they're able to break down the total scope of the project into smaller ones. And that's what you see here. That's why we call it an incremental model. Combined requirements are broken down into three different buckets. Each bucket goes through its own software development lifecycle: analysis, design, implementation, testing, deployment, etc. etc. Okay, and that's what we call the agile incremental lifecycle. So here I would like to say maybe in this way, each independent requirements are broken down into small standalone modules. Okay, and each team is given one module. Let me give you an example. All right, now a bank wants to develop software to automate its banking processes. What are the processes? Insurance services, personal banking, home loans, automobile loans, etc. Remember, the total technology change which is coming in is across all departments. But if we will use waterfall, we will shake up the whole bank's platform of technology. And obviously, it will impact its business cycle as well. Okay. So, in order to do an incremental part, what we will do is we will divide this total scope into individual modules. First, we will do the requirements, development, testing only for personal banking products. After that, we will go only for home loans. After that, we will do the necessary development only for automobile loans. Okay, that is how we will not shake the boat. Because remember, you can't disrupt the business just because you are making some big technology change on the client landscape and process change. You can't shake the boat, which means, guys, in the first increment cycle of development in agile, you will implement the personal banking features, deliver it to the customer. Second increments, you will implement the insurance services, deliver it to the customer. Then you will pick up the home loans, do the necessary process change, technology change, platform change, whatever changes that you want to bring in it as a change manager. Okay, and that time your expertise as a business analyst or an agile coach will be very, very useful. That is how, guys, we are developing this value chain for you so that you are capable to perform any role in the entire change management cycle. Hey guys, just a small pause. Any questions here? Okay, fine. Never mind. I think we'll go for some more time before you guys may have some questions. Guys, as a business analyst for agile or iterative models, remember a couple of things are like golden principle for you. One, the requirements of the complete system are clearly understood, fully defined, understood, and ready to go. Okay, this is a must. Second thing is major requirements at least must be defined. The client might tell you that, hey Anshul, you know what, let's cover the major part first, even though the smaller requirements may take some time because our business dynamics are changing. We are making a tactical change in our customer relationship management processes. Okay, so Anshul can say that's fine, but remember that 70% of the requirements must be understood to you. Okay, so major part must be understood. It's okay, agile cycle is flexible, agile cycle is dynamic, but that doesn't mean that you can bring any amount of change in any major requirement at any point of time during the agile cycle development. Okay, so it's okay, smaller requirements can evolve with time, not a fuss, but major ones has to be done. Okay, while you are in iterative development, again iterative, which means you discuss with customer something on a new requirement, you bring it over, you develop it. Okay, then you do the next discussion on the next level of requirement. So these are iterations between you and the customer. We call it an iterative model, as you've understood. Yeah, when is this model applicable? Number one scenario, when a new technology is being used, okay, and is being learned by the development team while they are working on the project. Because you're doing it in smaller iterations, okay, it's better to use this way of development. Second, you are going for, let's say, digital implementation of a client. So you need digital skill sets. Hey, we don't have that. If it was a waterfall, you can't start the project unless you have all the digital skills related resources with you who can start the project, because you need everybody together. Because it's agile, you can say, hey, just give me two skill sets from digital part, which means the digital, let's say an architect, and second is the digital business analyst, because at least they can start understanding the user stories, start framing the iterations cycle, start doing the backlog refinement planning, okay, till the time our sprint starts, with more skills like functional analyst, programmer, tester, all from a digital area, which have joined our team, right? So because it's iterative, you can discuss the smaller iterations first with the client and then bring it over to your development side. Yeah. Third area, which will tell you that, hey, if there are some high risk features, today the digital technology is changing fast. Today things are digital in one way, tomorrow a higher form of digitization comes in, and then again your business scenario changes. So if guys, in your business scenario, when you're sitting with the client, you get a feel that your requirements are going to be very, you know, fast moving, fast changing, it's a risk proposition, because you will take the requirements and then eventually you'll start building it up, and by the time the requirements might have changed. Yeah, so we can't do that. But since you want to be flexible as well, I would say you rather take the iterative agile model into your application development. Okay, all right, I think there was some question here. So okay, what are digital technologies? So Subir, for example, let's say today, let's say I'm talking about a conventional company, sales company, right? So let's say Subir is its salesman. So Subir goes to the customers, okay, explains the new product, gets the order, bring it back to his warehouse or godowns, and get that products physically dispatched to the customer. This is the non-digital part. But now things are digital. which means how much of stock is there in your godowns, how much new stock has come in, what are the new products which have been launched already. All that information now, Sudhir, you as a salesman can access via your mobile device, right? So now the company has given you a tablet. The tablet is connected to the back end. What is the back end? That's your inventory, stocks, new products, product movement from plant into warehouses, etc., etc., etc. Now, via the mobile device, you have a full updated version of how much stocks you have, how much you can promise to your customer, etc. So, in the non-digital business, you can't give a confirmation to your customers because you always have to check back with your, dispatching people, warehousing people, etc. But now all the information is on the tips of Subir. He can make a qualified confirmation thanks to the digital network with which he's connected with via his tablet. But behind this, guys, there's a large implementation of a large transformation which has to go in. And what is that? We call it mobility. So putting the ERP application on the mobile device so that Subir through his mobile device is able to access the entire backend of his ERP, which tells him how much of procurement has happened, how much of finished product is coming in, how much finished product is getting dispatched to the warehouses, how much he can commit to the customer because that's a confirmed quantity which is sitting on his racks in the warehouse, right, etc., etc. So this is digital part. I'll give you more example. So uh, let's go a little bit towards sensors. So guys, you remember that in oil companies, right? Oil companies drill the oil wells into the ground, right? And they keep checking how much of temperature, pressure is coming from the oil well because that gives them a distinct, information that what is the temperature, pressure which anyway needs to be maintained in the oil well, right? So oil is dug out from the wells. It is sent into refinery where from the crude petroleum we generate petrol, diesel, naphtha, bitumen, right? Earlier all that used to be manually checked, which means through fundamentally through physical temperature checking devices. Engineer used to take the temperature of the crude oil, okay, at what temperature it is right now, okay, to know that after how much time it will convert itself into a petrol or a diesel or different product. Now we have sensors. These sensors are able to withstand high temperature, high pressure. They are put inside as various as operational devices amongst within the refinery. They keep checking the temperature, pressure, and keep relaying it back to the control tower. So the engineer doesn't have to move out of his control towers for safety reasons. Within sitting in the control towers, thanks to the sensors, he's able to get all the information about the temperatures, pressures, and many other parameters which have to be taken care of while the crude petroleum is being converted into petrol, diesel, etc. What is this? This is a digital part. What does it contain? It contains a sensor. Second, the sensor via GPS is able to transmit information to the back end, which where it picks up and displays it or flashes it on a dashboard. So engineer is now into a very safe zone, right? So this is what, guys, is called more of digital technologies. So all sensors are digital technologies, okay? All the mobility which is implemented for any kind of a sales client in order to give a better customer relationship management is digital. Yeah, clear, Subir and Party, everybody? Okay, let's go ahead. Okay, guys, so I think you can see the screen. So please do a quick read because, I mean, reading every slide for everything will be a little difficult. We'll be left behind in our curriculum. Yeah. So iterative model is great because, at a very early stage of development, we get to know whether our design is right or wrong because there's so much of iterations done with the customer. So our business target never goes wrong. Here you're doing small feature development, so your results are obtained quickly. When you obtain quick results, you are able to look at them and decide whether you are going on the right track or the wrong track. You get to know that earlier in an agile part. You don't get to know in a waterfall part. Yeah. So you can measure your progress and keep going ahead. Advantages of iterative. Well, it's less costly to change the scope. Because in a waterfall, if you change the scope, a long list of design changes, configuration changes, and all that happen. Something which you accomplished in the last 2 months suddenly undergoes a big change. In iterative, it doesn't, because you've been checking out if your smaller changes are undergoing any further change from the business side. If they were, you kept tweaking it. So even if there is a large change which happens, because you have already broken that down into smaller part, it doesn't hurt you. That's why it's less expensive. Okay, guys, everything has an advantage and a disadvantage. Okay, let's check out some of the disadvantages part. So guys, this is applicable to large projects only. Yeah. uh, because here you need to have large projects because you need to break them down into smaller. I mean, if you already have small projects, you can't break them down into smaller things anyways. So iterative agile cycle is not applicable on very small projects. That's disadvantage number one. Yeah. Second, it's not applicable where it's very difficult to break large scope into smaller scopes. Yep. Third thing is you need a lot of resources, because every small features is developed into smaller skill sets. Typically, if you have large project broken down into smaller skills, you split them out into different features teams. Each feature teams needs to be staffed with business analyst, tester, programmer, architect, technical designer. So you need a large number of resources also. Okay. Continuing, you need longer management time, guys, because there are 4 teams working in parallel. You need to, care for each one of them. Check out that all of them are doing the right thing. Management effort is large. Then many times, if you have to make changes, guys, you have to look at the complete system in toto. Yep, which means you need to have a holistic understanding of the entire system. Because if Subir is going to implement mobility for his company, needless to say, these guys need to have a complete technology understanding of how currently the different technology aspects are working to run the business. Because when Subir has to implement mobility, so that all the salesmen, global salespeople have all the information at their tips via the tablets, okay, then he needs to see that which all processes need to be implemented on mobile platform. And typically it's a lot, because everything is integrated. They need to check on the how much procurement has been done in the factory. They need to implement mobility on the procurement processes. They need to check how much of finished product is coming out of the assembly line. They need to have mobility implemented for the plant maintenance and production planning processes. So just like that, there is a large amount of work as well. Okay, so it's a large cumbersome design principle as well. But remember, once you accomplish it all, then it's great, because then Subir will be able to break it down into smaller requirements, assign it to different teams, make them run in parallel, and achieve his project in shorter period of time. Okay, last slide of this deck before we go to the next deck, guys. We have, obviously, when the project runs, right, we need someone to keep watching it, right, if it's going good, bad, ugly. That's typically called the governance part or the management part. Now, business analysts is participates in all 3 levels of management. The ground level is called pure operational management. You're doing project delivery, there are reviews happening, there's a strategic planning going on. BA is obviously part of it, because all the developments which have to happen, they need to come from his requirements. So BA at an operational level, every 15 days, keeps sitting with his IT development team and keeps giving all the updates on new requirements which are coming in. What is the business vision behind those requirements? What is the business ask? How stringent is the business about prioritizing that requirement, and so on and on. That is the operational part. Then comes tactical part. Now many requirement guys are more from a strategy viewpoint. They are not there because of a daily change in business operations. Yeah. So that is basically goes into tactical and strategic part. From tactical perspective, let's say the company is thinking of divesting some of its product lines, right? So they are saying these product lines are not profitable. But you know what? We need to divest these product lines for the entire global business, or we need to divest these product lines only for Asia and Europe, because these product lines are doing pretty well in North America and South America. These kind of larger things, which obviously go beyond operational requirements, that's what we do at a tactical level. So business analyst is involved obviously at the tactical level, which we have understood in last to last session. Yeah. So because the management of that is done separately, right? Because the requirements for operation level are done separately. Requirements for a tactical level are done separately because the teams are different. The business analyst seniority is different. So there, business analyst participates in the governance or management of all these requirements, okay, so that he has a full view what is the kind of operational perspectives going on in the client, what is the tactical level requirements going on in the client, so that he has a full view of the whole thing. See guys, this is also because every 15 days you have to sit for a big meeting with the client, you have to update them all the things which are going on, progress, challenges, issues, etc. You do that together with your project manager. That time this participation is important because you need to tell them the real story behind, either it is requirement challenges or it is basically technology challenges, is it because of not getting enough cooperation for the business SMEs, etc., etc. So your role in governance is pretty much there. Yeah, just a basic view, and of course we will do details in the coming. Okay, so guys, what we will do is that I think we will updates form some kind of. That's okay. I think details we will do anyways in the next slide. So guys, what we'll do is this was deck 2 and 3. We will now go to deck 4. All right, I've got a couple of assignments and case studies for this one for you. Um, so what we'll do is we'll start. Hey guys, is my voice clear or there is some background disturbance? Because there's an air conditioner, central air conditioner running. I think maybe I'll try to switch it off if that makes the voice any more clear to you. Is there a slight background noise for you guys? No, it's okay. Ah, they didn't say there is. Okay, guys, it's all right. I think I'll just switch it off. I'll be back in about 40 seconds, and then let's start the business analysis for for planning, scope, and vision. Yeah, just give me 30 seconds. All right, guys. Guys, as we go ahead, yeah, I'll tell you how is it. So first 3 weeks, these whole things starts, slowly, you start digesting all that. Okay. I try to provoke you into good discussions by giving you typical examples from the industry. And any of you who has probably even a brief of experience in a similar situation, and then that's how it provokes you to start asking some questions, and that's how it goes in every batch like that. Yeah. So if I don't see a lot of movement here from a questions perspective, it's all right. But I think we will be probably another 1 or 2 sessions. After that, I expect you to have at least a certain limited control on the understanding of how a business analysis operates. Yeah. Of course, we will take almost 50 hours to learn that. We have just done about probably 8 hours or 12 hours. So once it reaches at least 30, 35 hours, then you have start having a very fair understanding. Yeah. So I think all I'm saying is that time that the discussions will get more interesting. Okay. But now we will just continue with just to gain more knowledge and more grounds, so that we basically start understanding it. So here, see, we just did basics. Now you're at stage 2, when we are doing business analysis, planning, scope, and vision. Next we will do is enterprise analysis. Then we'll go into the knowledge area of requirement analysis and management. Yeah. Followed by requirement elicitation, and then we will end up developing the actual deliverable for a business analyst, which is called BRD, business requirement document. Okay. On some kind of a very kind of a live case study. Yeah. And so this is the cycle of business analysis that we will complete for ourselves. All right. This is the agenda for today. All right. Okay. First of all, guys, I have to drill down into your mind. Yeah. What is business analysis? Of course, we spoke about it maybe, in the last couple of sessions, but honestly, from a very, very theoretical understanding, I wanted to be fantastically clear with what are the breakup zones within a business analysis, what are being done, how it is done, so that you become very, very open, minded from a business analysis perspective, because it's a very diverse role, guys. Business analyst is someone who faces a lot of different areas, from where requirements come. So is to connect with all those areas in order to be good enough to understand the fundamental requirements from each area. The least he can do is to become very open minded person. And that for open mindedness, you need to understand that what is business analysis, because you will understand each flavor attached to it. Yeah. So this will help you in your perspectives. Okay, let's start with the drill down of business analysis planning. Okay. First of all, when we say I'm going for a business analysis, obviously I need to have a business analysis plan. All right, I have a plan. What is a plan? A plan which constitutes certain activities which are very specific to a BA. Okay, they are to be done over a period of time. So my plan has a timeline chart. I also need certain key inputs based on which I'll be able to develop certain outputs as a BA. So those two parameters also come into your plan. And I want certain inputs from certain specific people or resources about processes and technology, etc. So that's the input part towards you. You need to have business analysis plan, which should be able to capture this whole things, so that you can publish it to your stakeholders and ask them, guys, this is my plan. This is what I need. This is what I will do. Yeah. Hey, by the way, why are you doing business analysis? I asked someone one day. A smart answer was, obviously, Mukraj, I'm doing it because I want to get my requirements. Okay. Now, Requirements can be one, they can be 50, they can be 100. Requirements can be very, very critical in nature, or they could be just very, very non-critical in nature. So when you have to handle 75 requirements, which are a mixed bag of criticality and non-criticality, what do you do about it? Well, I will manage my requirements. This means you must have a requirement management plan. Yeah. And during this entire requirement perspective, right, what I'm trying to tell you is that eventually there is so much of an amazing amount of communication which goes between you and your stakeholders, to get that requirement understanding perspective. This means, hey, I'm going to be talking to a lot of stakeholders. Well, that's good, Anchal, but you better have a communication plan as well. Yeah. At this level one, you are going to design a business analysis plan, requirement management plan, communication plan. Okay. So it's all about a plan. As you step down into your business analysis part, because that's the deep dive tunnel which you have to dig up, that is where you will probably go into a requirement elicitation mode, because you have to take those requirements out of your business, guys. So I'll say, please go and elicit those requirements from their minds. You remember we did that in last session, right? The requirements are not like cherry picking, right? They need to be dug out, explored, investigated. And that is where you get to understand the complete perspective that, okay, my requirement is coming from such and such process. Okay, the current weakness for this thing is so and so. My requirement will help to fulfill that requirement, that gap, that weakness. That's where, I'll be adding value to the business, and so on and on. So for elicitation, you need to do certain activities. For analyzing those raw requirements which come to you via elicitation, you need to analyze, and hence there are certain activities. Once you analyze the requirement, you create certain solutions for that. And then you say, okay, I've made some solution, but I need someone to assess that and validate that. That is a separate set of activities. Okay. This is, guys, what is the fundamental constituent or components of a business analysis. All right. Once you have understood that, okay, what are the components? Let me show you how these components flow. So where do we start from? Let's say we are embarking upon a certain project, okay, and the level of discussion right now is that, okay, what is the business analysis approach? Okay, number one. Second thing on the parallel note is that I will expect the BA to do a stakeholder analysis, because eventually your storyline starts with the stakeholder, finishes with the stakeholder. So you need to know who are your right true stakeholders, which can give you the precise information while you start doing analyzing the data as well. Yeah. The second stage is, guys, that you plan your business analysis activities. That what are the activities? I will say, hey, are you going to do a data analysis to get your requirements, or are you going to understand their business process flows all by yourself, and then going to have a discussion with them to get to understand your basic requirements? I will say, what are you doing? Your answer is, I'm planning my business analysis activities, which means the activities that I have to do to do my actual business analysis. Okay. And then you step into the next level and say, I have done some analysis. I now want to communicate with my stakeholders. That's where this step comes in. Yeah. Plan, business analysis, communication. And then comes the process side of the story. And what have you done before the process understanding? Well, I have basically a plan for business analysis. I have a timeline. I have some stakeholders which I have understood from my doing my stakeholder analysis. I have understood that what kind of a basic analysis activities I have to do to get to that level. Okay, and so on and on. And now my idea is to plan the requirements management process. Okay, I'm trying to get certain requirements. Off and on, they are dropping into my kitty, but now I need to manage them. And essentially, guys, the management of requirement is nothing but how to prioritize them. All right, how to take approvals for each requirement separately or together, depending on what kind of a synergy you want to bring forward. Okay, so all that falls into the requirement management. Hey, you need to manage a requirement, right? That's called requirement management process. So guys, this is how you carry the right set of activities from left towards the right. Okay, and towards the end we see that how, obviously, there will be some reviewer while you do these large set of activities. There'll be somebody to manage, to help you, guide you, mentor you on your performance parameters, just in case the output is not too good here. It will again go back to step number 2. Why the output is not good? What is the output, by the way? Well, these are the requirements which you generated from business. Well, they don't look good. So what could be the possible problem? The possible problem is either the requirement have not been managed well, or the communication have not been managed well. This means, guys, you'll be thrown back into step 2, which is plan your business analysis activities better, because the activity which you did in last iteration did not end up with the right outcomes. This is how, guys, this cycle will continue till the time you're able to bring out the right requirements. Yeah. So this cycle will continue till the time you have refined requirements. Okay. And this is the area which takes the larger part of business analysts' time, energy, and commitment. Now, we need to probably spend a little time on why we should plan our business analysis part, right? So, guys, when I say you need to do a planning exercise, it's very clear because we will quickly understand that what is the right approach, what we need to take, and what is the right scope which we need to entertain. Yeah. Now, these are the various steps which you do within business planning. You establish a clear approach and a scope. Yep. And it's within the approach where you decide whether I'm going to do probably a waterfall way, whether I'm going to do a agile way, etc., etc. Okay. Once you have developed this approach, you step into the communication part, because after the approach, you take some time to first analyze your stakeholder, see that who's important and who's not, and then on basis of that, you design what is going to be the frequency of communication towards them. That's step number 2. Third thing, you estimate your time commitments with your stakeholder. See, this project is not endless. If you say that I need to generate certain requirements from procurement module, sales module, finance module, you need to have a certain timeline. And that's exactly those activities and timeline for each module, which you have to use to end up capturing some requirements, is part of your requirement plan. Yeah. So guys, honestly, it's like a check box. You do each thing and check that box. Yeah. So here, in terms of establishing business analysis deliverables, okay, speeding up the software development by spending more time on requirements, okay, all this becomes easier if you have done some planning about it. Okay. So planning makes these things simpler, and you need to have these things in your hands before you go to the stakeholders, because they will look forward to these things already being planned up with by you before you meet them for better discussion. I guess it's pretty simple, right? I mean, if you plan, you do a planning exercise, and then you go along with it, then the efficiencies which are gained are probably more than if you wouldn't have planned it right. Right? Because important side of the planning in BA's exercises, guys, that when you plan things, you are also able to effort estimate them. So you know that with so and so set of stakeholders, the complex requirement will take how much time to generate, the medium requirements will need how much time to generate, because all that goes back into the timeline chart. And hence these are very important for you to give it to your product project manager. So largely, if you ask me, the quantifiable benefits are the effort part. Remember, it's a 1,000-day project. But as a thumb rule, the BA got about 15% of the project timeline, which is about 150 days. Now, 150 days is, let's say, typically 5 months. Yeah. But only if you are able to do a planning, give them an effort, match that effort to those 5 months. You know that you in 5 months you'll be able to complete all activities from a business analysis perspective, create the deliverables, take a business case sign off, take a requirement sign off, and then go ahead. Right? That's why you need that kind of detail. Okay, take a look at this slide. All right, let's come to a very important tool for you guys called RAID log. RAID also stands for risks, actions, issues, and decisions. Yeah. If you think about it, guys, these four things have a very high value in your business analysis project. The reason is, do you think that you need to identify the key risks? Yeah. When you are doing your analysis part of the story from business side or technology side? I think I would probably say yes, because if you know the risks which are going to come up in your various stages of your project's life cycle development, you can at least plan some response to that risk. Yeah. And that is exactly what is called A, which is called actions. So the responses or the actions which you have to perform in order to mitigate or end the risks in your project, that's the action part. Yeah. The third thing is the issues. Now, you know that, right? In every project, there are going to be issues, operational issues, tactical issues, strategic issues, etc. The issues which you can say, hey, don't bother about that, I can take care of it, are plain operational issues. You do a certain solution or part things for it, and the issues go away. There are certain solutions which don't go away just like that. That's what the issues grow and become risks. But the journal day-to-day issues will still be called issues. You will take a certain decision about it, and those issues can be wrapped up. So you need decisions to kill the issues, you need actions to kill the risks. Okay, both risks and issues are typically the something which can bottleneck your project. So RAID log, guys, is typically an effective tool which you use because it can help you to track anything that is impacting your project in any negative way. All right. And if you keep it up to date, if you keep the RAID log, which is nothing but some kind of a Excel kind of a document where you pick and choose after identifying all different kind of issues and risks, I think you'll be in a better state of affairs. Okay. So you keep a track of it in weekly reviews and team meetings, etc. Then I think the risks onto you as a BA goes down. What is my thought? My thought is, as a BA, keep a RAID log in your hand all the time, keep updating it while you talk to different stakeholders, so that you should know as a business analyst what are the risks involved in the project, how we are trying to bring them down. Okay, and then what are the typical issues which are being decided upon, right, to knock them out. RAID log, keep it helps you to log day-to-day issues, day-to-day actions, day-to-day resolutions. Okay, and hence it translates into a weekly and a fortnightly updates for your team. Yeah, Siddharth, go ahead. I'll also continue. Yeah. So guys, remember, you are telling me that you need, as a business analyst, $1 million to implement a certain project, because you have taken a high level requirement understanding. You feel that business needs to have those improvements done. They need certain new technology applications, etc. Overall cost of the project is $1 million. Great. But then what is the benefit to me as a business sponsor? So let's say I'm CIO of the company. You walk up to me and say, hey, I got a proposition in terms of mitigating some pain points on the business side. I will say, okay, why don't you do a business analysis and tell me. When you do that business analysis, you identify certain gaps, guys. You also identify what is a high level solution that you have to give to fulfill those gaps. Yeah. As a business sponsor, my expectation from you will be that, guys, identify those areas, give me the cost, but also give me the benefits. Yeah. So the idea is that if as a business sponsor, I have to give you a go ahead decision, I will need the benefits which I will incur out of the in after incurring the cost of $1 million. So I'm ready to sponsor the project. I'm ready to run with the project. Okay, I'm ready to dedicate my team members. Because I'm the CIO, right, of the client. So I'm ready to do that. But what is the potential benefits you want to tell me? You need to show me. So guys, comparing the costs and benefits for a project based on your requirement discussions, you will build a business case. Okay. If the business case is positive, which means the benefits accrued out of the project, okay, is going to be more than the costs, then obviously the decision will be a go ahead. If the decision is that the benefits accrued may or may not be, you know, less, it may be less than the cost involved, which means the typical benefits will be there, but honestly, it's never as attractive. The fact that we spend $1 million on the project, so it's a no go decision. Okay, and many times it's in between. There are benefits, but the fact is the benefits will translate to you after 2 3 4 years, which means the break even of this cost model will be longer than expected. That is the time when business stakeholders sit together with the business analyst and they take a tactical decision whether to go ahead and invest in the project build up, because it will be very beneficial for the not the immediate future but for the later future. Hey guys, are you okay or you want see today the break has to be obviously short, yeah? So you guys, if you guys want to take a 10 minutes, 12 minutes kind of break now, we can assemble back at probably 5 o'clock or something and then continue for the next 2 hours. Yeah. And Sid, I got your question. I'll answer it as soon as we are back from the break. Okay. So let's take a 12 minutes, 12 max 15 minutes break, guys, and freshen up and do anything else what you want to do to sit for the next 2 hours, please. Yeah. All right. Cheers. All right, guys, let's be together. Okay, so I have few questions here. So Sid asked that RAID log is it similar to maintaining a business scenario tracker or a, I think functional. Hey, what's FTC, man? That's is that the functional tracker or something? But I think Sid, you are referring to the fact that these are the trackers which we keep for tracking the level of activities and deliverables. Is that right? Oh, functional test cases. Okay. So guys, Sid has what Sid has asked is kind of a little important. Sid is asking Mukraj, I'm right now a business analyst, for example. Yeah. And I want to keep a track of the entire activities on the operational side. So let's say Sid is asking about maintaining functional specification, tracker of the same, technical specification, tracker of the same, functional test cases, tracker of the same. Yeah. So it's a very, very good question because I want to tell you why. So guys, all those trackers are part of project manager's job. Remember, project manager is caring the fact that the project is on time, project is running within cost, project is running within scope, right? But our sharpshooter business analyst is not worried on that because our business analyst is more worried how to get the right requirements from business. Okay, in that context, RAID log is not an operational log, it is at a little higher level. Because see, when you jump into a business perspective, there are multiple challenges, guys. One is that the business front has a lot of dynamics, business processes are changing and they are undergoing a lot of competitive pressures, and so you need to do a lot of changes here and there. Now the fact is that it takes an enormous amount of time from a business analyst to focus on that. Okay, so that's why business analysis related trackers like RAID log are very different from a project manager related logs, which track primarily from how much has been done and how much he can speed up. Okay, so that's the essential difference between a RAID log and a typical trackers which we use for monitoring the progress of the project. Okay, anything else which is here is, I think some another question was there. Uh, I think somebody asked that whether for cost benefit analysis we'll do a detailed analysis. I actually build up a cost benefit, right? Yes, of course we will do that, guys. See, these are theoretical understandings. Okay, in order to make a practical knowledge orientation out of you, we will be doing a lot of hands-on exercises when I will give you a case study, and then for the case study you will act as a business analyst, and then you will have to build up the entire understanding from let's say RAID log as is business processes to be business processes. You'll have to find out the gaps between the things, and then you'll have to eventually create the requirements out of it. Yeah, so yes, during a case study we will do this hands-on training where we will actually build a quantitative business case out of the case study. So there will be dollar values which will be given to all the costs attached to a certain business scenario, all the values of benefits which we will generate after assessing what will be the quantitative and qualitative benefits that we will get out of the that particular project implementation. So that way I think you'll be clear. So yes, you need to be all clear on this, guys, because I mean, you never know when you guys will be going into an actual case like that as a project for yourself. So you need to have a clear understanding how this is built, how it is presented to the stakeholders, and how do you get a clear sign off on that. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay. So guys, remember, I want to just spend few minutes on this. When you say I'm building up a cost benefit analysis, yeah, at least the cost part is clear, that how much of labor cost, how much of manpower cost, how much of effort is going into it, how much of equipment cost, how much of new technology software purchase cost, right? All the cost components are quite clear. It is the benefit part which is a little unclear. So you have to take some approximations there. For example, we are saying that we are going to help a supply chain management customer to help them, execute and speed up, fast track, the business processes that they use in order to do a lesser time to market, right? So this means that for a particular client in FMCG, okay, we want their products to hit the market faster than their competitors. This means that their entire value chain of supply should be all clear, okay, and all productive. Also, the way those steps of supply chain are conducted in the IT system should also be, as clear and robust as possible. So we are doing a transformation journey for the client. Okay. So the idea is that, okay, if you do this whole thing, right, it's typically going to cost you $1 million. What is the benefit for it? Now you can't say that, hey, I'll be faster than my competitors and hence, my products will reach the market first and then obviously I'll be able to sell better. That's a statement. What is the quantifiable benefit in dollar value? So there, guys, we have to play around with certain rules. One is the pure quantitative benefits. Now, what is that? Now you say, as a principle in FMCG's industry, whichever product is on display is typically sold more than the products which are not on display. Okay. The total value of the market, for example, let's say is $100 million. Yeah. It has been seen as a thumb rule from the industry benchmarking in FMCG that those products which are more visible over a period of time consistently as compared to the other products typically get a better visibility and a better they are sold better, and over a period of time typically we have seen that if this entire value chain moves well, a company ends up gaining, let's say, 1% of market share over a 1 year period. Yeah, if they follow this consistent marketing, display, customer relationship practices very well. Assuming you are doing it in your project, I will assume, obviously as a thumb rule, that I as a client will get 1% add-on market share over a period of 1 year. This means out of $100 million market, I'll gain $1 million kind of a market over the next 1 year. I'm currently, let's say, doing 5 million because I have a 5% market share. So my market share will probably go to 7% in 2 years. And obviously, guys, there are certain assumptions, there are certain approximations, there are certain thumb rules because you can't really predict accurately. So for the next 2 years, if you get 1% consecutive market shares add on, you will gain almost $2 million worth of additional revenue, right? Now, if your profits are, let's say, 20% of your revenue, okay, so you will take about 5 years approximately to gain $1 million worth of profit from the add-on market that you get, right? Now it's only after 5 years that you've broken even because your total spend on the project was $1 million, and then you gained the same amount of money back from the market as profits over the next 5 years. So broadly, I will say 5 years is your break-in period. And after that, whatever money that you incur in profits is your incremental margin because that's going beyond the break-even. So typically, I would say the kind of initiative that you have taken today to invest money to, let's say, automate your supply chain management, the break-even part is 5 years. But this is, guys, the quantitative part. There are qualitative benefits also. If you are selling more, it means you're attracting the customer's attention more and more. You're doing a very consistent display. Your markets are the market is always flush with your product. If there are any new launches, it's your product that always hits the market first. It creates a very different brand valuation value as well, and which is honestly it's beyond price, it's beyond profits. A brand strengthening is a fantastic exercise. So how do you typically generate your business cases? By doing a quantitative and a qualitative business benefit analysis. comparing that with the cost, finding out a break-even period, and then proposing it to your stakeholders that this is how you understand is the likelihood of the product brand moving forward, provided the other conditions remain the same. Okay, and that is the business value I want to bring out from implementing this project. Yeah. Okay, guys, I wanted to take you through two important aspects. One is called the mission part, and second is called the vision part. Okay, this is something I think which you understand to some extent, I'm sure, as a layman. So I won't take much time on that. Mission statement of a company or any client is a statement of its core value, purpose, and business principles that it brings forward. Okay, it's the reason why they exist. Okay, what does mission statement consist of? Hey, what's the mission of Vodafone? The mission of Vodafone is that it will always give the state of the art services to its customer with respect to, okay, whether it's a signal strength, okay, I'm talking about airwaves or air services, yeah, or whether it's about bandwidth which you offer to its customer, okay, in case of, let's say, usage of data, etc. So this is some kind of a mission statement of Vodafone. It's basically a declaration of Vodafone's core purpose. Okay, all right. Let me give you some example, guys. Look at McDonald's. What's McDonald's vision? Mission? Hey, we provide clean. Okay, we provide clean food in clean surroundings where people can sit, they can have a good time, and by the way, we offer the same consistent food across the world. Now, whether it's a hamburger, French fries, cold coffee, our taste is same across any location on the world. That's their mission. So why do you say that we are talking a little bit about mission? Because, guys, mission gives the business analyst a clear viewpoint of what are the contributions of that mission statement towards the business, what are the key markets that the client is targeting, and what is the distinction or the unique selling proposition which they want to bring forward from their product or services. Do you think you will need all this as a business analyst? I'm asking you as a question. Do you think, guys, you will need these three different things as a business analyst? Contribution of that particular product category, key markets, what is the distinction behind that product? Suppose you go to McDonald's, you are a business analyst. McDonald's hires your services, okay, and they want you to do certain product upgrade. They want you to change certain business process. They want you to change certain, the way the business process is conducted in the system, IT systems. Do you think knowing more about the product's distinctive features, key markets, etc., will be important? Do you think knowing the mission statement of McDonald's will be important for you? Hey, that's not a difficult question, guys. At least answer some yes, no. Okay, that's perfect, Savan. So, guys, as Savan says, it will give us a base. A base for what? A base to think, a base to act. At least you have a direction in their business values. Remember, you are there with McDonald's because you want to create additional value for them, right? And to create additional business value, you are going to change something in their current landscape which gives them add-on value. To make a business value contribution, you obviously need to know their current business values which they offer to their customers or market. That is where this will come in very, very useful. Yeah, so that is the base part, which, so base is in terms of thinking, base is in terms of acting, base is in terms of conducting yourself with your client. So imagine if you are obviously with McDonald's working out some new plans for their new category of markets or new products or new customer services, etc., right? Obviously this space will be very useful. Let me give you another good example. Marriott Courtyard. It's a Marriott chain. It's a good hotel. It's neat and clean. It's nice. It's pretty plush. They don't charge you a lot. Okay. So if you ask me, hey Mukraj, tell us something about Marriott. I'll say, hey, man, they get good facilities. It's pretty neat and clean. Reception is very friendly. Food is pretty decent. They are not very expensive, right? And it's a pretty comfortable stay. If you look at it, guys, the same thing what I've said. I mean, I didn't look at Marriott's mission statement to tell you all this. It was a feeling because I go to Marriott pretty often to stay. Yeah, this is what Marriott's offer as a mission. This is their mission. They want to provide a moderately priced lodging facility, which is clean, clear, maintained, attractive, etc., etc. Yeah. What is their key market? It's economy and quality minded travelers. So people like maybe me and Suchitra and Dipin, right? We want to spend approximately about 5,000 bucks on our stay per night. Okay. We can't do any more. We can't spend more than this, but we don't want to spend less than this also because we know that it's not going to be a very quality aspect. Yeah. Sorry, guys, just give me a 1 second here, please. Okay, sorry. So if obviously I have a distinctive advantage, in terms of dealing with Marriott as a business analyst, because I already know that what is the base level of business value they want to offer to their clients or segments of customers, right? So that is why, guys, mission statement is a must. Typically, you get the mission statement because you get a lot of artifacts and documentation from your clients to be read. They are provided to you always in advance. But what I'm trying to say is something more. You read these documentation, you go and sit with Marriott guys. They want you to, do a new program initiative for them in terms of loyalty program of their customers. They want you to design certain new components of their services which can help to retain better loyalty from their customers. Yeah. So for that, even though you have the pre-read of these documentations, it'll be a great way to start the opening discussions with the Marriott Courtyard business SMEs, to come onto a same page in terms of what do they expect and how do they expect. Okay, vision statement. A vision statement is a bit different, guys. It's about your vision. So what's my vision, for example? My vision is to be, let's say, the best trainer for change management programs for a global organizations. That's my vision for myself. Yeah. And the difference between my vision and my mission is, so Mukraj's vision is to be the globally best trainer. But mission is, how do I want to achieve that vision? So the execution part of your vision becomes your mission. Okay, and the vision statement defines where you want to be tomorrow. Okay, so vision statement is, where am I today? All right, so I am a, I work with so and so, I train with so and so, and that's my current situation. And I say, hey, I want to be the global best trainer. That is somewhere probably far ahead of me. So the gap between that objective and where am I today is the mission part. Because in order to reach your vision, you need to accomplish a mission. So mission is the executable part of your vision statement. Okay. All right. Quick difference. So guys, remember, I'm not teaching you vision and mission just because I want you to be commensurate with mission and vision. It's also because from a business analysis perspective, how I want you to react, how do I want you to behave by leveraging on mission and vision while you interact with your clients. Okay. So, all right, so this is defined, guys. Vision statement outlines where you want to be, and mission is how you want to get there. So, mission statement answers the how part. Now, think about it. I'm sitting with a business client as a BA. The vision will tell me where they want to be. So, that automatically becomes the objective of my business analysis. And mission statement will tell me what do I have to implement to make them reach there. Because from a business perspective, they already have a how, that how do they want to reach. My goal is to use their hows into a more business and technology related, solutioning perspective and give it back to them. So you got it, guys? How you will use the mission and the vision of your clients to devise your own strategy for business analysis. Oh, sorry. Okay, let's bring vision a little closer to the BA's actual working. Yeah. So what do you have to do, guys? BA should talk to the various stakeholders to capture the solution vision. Okay, and BA can talk to or interview the stakeholders or organized focus group discussion for this purpose. So typically, as a good practice, guys, I converge very important business stakeholders with me together, make them sit on a round table, and then discuss openly the vision and the mission part. See, when you say, remember, we had one golden rule, requirements have to be elicited, right? How do you think you can elicit this thing from your SMEs, business SMEs? You're not going to open their mind. A window will open and then you will dig inside and take out the requirements. No, right? It will evolve over gradually over discussions. So when you say, Mukraj, okay, so I need to discuss things with my stakeholders in order to evolve requirements. But what do I discuss? Your discussion, guys, will start from things like mission, vision, business process flow, current business pain areas, etc., etc., etc. Okay, that is how you get an opening window to the thinking and the mindset of your business stakeholders in order to reach some conclusion with them. Okay, so okay, good. So that's great. We will continue discussions on the requirement perspective and all that. Let's talk a little bit about solution scope. So you will say, okay, Mukraj, while the time that I'm thinking, talking, discussing any evolving requirements, what is that I have to think from a solution perspective? Eventually, I have to give a solution to the client, right? Oh, sorry. Yep. So guys, this is the overall core solution perspective that we have to work it out. One, role in the BA process. Second thing, obviously, is stakeholders. Third thing is solution itself. So in developing the scope of your solution, first thing is that you have to do basically a project estimation and costing, because business analysis is a process. That process involves multiple steps. Each step is executed by you. You are putting your effort. That effort has to be estimated, because that estimation will roll up into a cost. So make sure that all the required activities which are being done in the business analysis cycle needs to be estimated. That's one part of the story. Second, stakeholders, the lifeline of your project. Yeah. Stakeholders, what do they expect in a solution and what do they don't expect? So let's say I was talking to a client day before yesterday. They were talking about their workflows need to be automated. It was a very clear ask. They were running workflows for various purchase processes. Okay, and it was pretty much of a manual thing. They have to use a lot of paperwork. They wanted it to automate it. So that's fine. We simply offered them a workflow solution. So workflows will be configured into their system, into their email boxes, into the pop-ups, which they will get when they have to simply approve, disapprove, or reject, or anything like that to, let's say, procurement related things like purchase order, purchase requisition, etc. So it's a clear ask. So guys, remember, make sure that you ask your stakeholders very openly, what do they expect in solution? Because they might be expecting sun, you might end up developing a moon for them. So coming to the broad point, remain transparent and open with your stakeholders so that you can get a very early heads up in terms of what's important and what's not very important. What's important, you need to keep into the solution. Yeah. And guys, if you do these two things, yeah, obviously what needs to be in the solution and what not needs to be, you will get to understand by yourself. Obviously, in common discussions with your IT teams, because the way you want to change the configuration, you want to basically the way you want to achieve the business objective, you just have to mention that to your IT teams and they will tell you what they are going to do to make that happen. Now that could be programming, testing, configurations, and many other things, right? But to be honest, how does that matter to you? You want to achieve a certain solution, okay, for the business, and you want to achieve it via your IT teams. Now, what do they do? How much they do? It's their problem. Your problem is to ensure that they understand where they have to reach. Okay. Okay. Look at the slide, guys. Difference between solution scope and project scope. So again, a tremendously important thing to understand for you. You are business analyst. You are supposed to develop the solution scope, right? But eventually, guys, your solution scope will be developed and implemented within the project scope, right? You remember, right? You got a contract with the client. Contract says we need to see the efficiency of our supply chain processes go up by 20%. Okay. Once you are going through their business pain points, you realize that, okay, a lot of their things are manual, right? So we just said, okay, why don't we automate their workflows? It will increase their efficiency by at least 5-7%. So in order to achieve the contractual objective of achieving the efficiency to 20%, you broke down that project scope into different solution scopes. For example, this workflow development, what is that? It's part of your solution scope. So you combine 3, 4, 5 different solution scopes. They combine together to to form the project scope. Okay. So this is, guys, what is the story behind the difference. So project scope, remember, is governed, managed, and taken care by your project manager. Whereas the solution development is guided, managed, and all that by you guys, which is the business analyst. So solution scope is restricted to only to the business solution, whereas the project scope is the project work done, performed to deliver a project. Okay, so in that there'll be multiple features, functions to be developed, there'll be task activities, they will all give rise to a big project plan of 6 months. That is within the jurisdiction of your project manager. Now, we will not worry about the project manager so much because honestly, we are trying ourselves to get into the shoes of a business analyst. So let's restrict our discussion more to solution business analyst or solution scope. All right, let's look at solution scope. Say when you say, okay, Mukraj, on the right hand side, I got a project. The project has a certain scope. It needs to be developed within a certain timeline. It needs a minimum amount of quality, and it has to be developed within a certain cost. Okay, good job. On your left hand side are your solution scope development principles. One, please write down, tabulate what needs to be included, what needs to be excluded. So you're coming back to the same example. Your procurement guy says, hey, we need to automate our current process by developing workflows. Okay, hey, workflows for who? Important question, right? Because workflows can be for purchase orders which are, let's say, $100, $1,000, $10,000, $1 million. Now, when you say I want to do automation, are they for low value purchase orders or high value purchase orders? Or they are for all? Why this question came up? Because at it has been seen as a business pain point. And mind you, you discovered this pain point when you sat with your stakeholders over extended discussions. Yeah, the pain point of the business is that 27% of the time high value purchase orders went into rejection because of a certain error which came in thanks to the manual processing of them. Yeah. Now, okay, so 27% purchase orders could not, be generated on time. So there was a certain delay. Okay, what happened then? If it went into a delay, then you could not send the purchase order to your vendor or supplier. Okay, then what happened? Supplier was not able to send you the quantity that you needed on time. Okay, then what happened? I was not able to supply that confirmed quantity to my customers. It led to a customer dissatisfaction. Okay, then what happened? Hey, my customer was dissatisfied. He stopped dealing with me. All right, then what happened? Hey, that customer was he was doing a business of $2 million with me every year. I lost that business. So, guys, this is how business analysts should take discussion from one end to the other end, because you need to know the repercussion of what is going to be in scope and what is not. Because let me explain. If you say, hey, I want to automate every kind of workflow, all right, so that is like 1,000-day effort, but honestly your project itself is only for 500 man days. So this means, guys, you need to see which workflows need to be automated. That is included in the scope. What needs to be excluded is not part of the scope. And then what is the business reason for including only the high value purchase orders to be automated? Because of the high value of the purchase orders, if there is a certain error, it leads to a large business damage. Okay, so in the first release of this project, we will automate only the purchase orders, which are beyond 10 lakh rupees. Okay, so everybody doesn't approve purchase order more than 10 lakhs, right? Only three people do: X, Y, and Z. This means, guys, we will automate workflows for now as a pilot only for them. This means at the workflow configuration definition, we will keep a condition or a business rule that all workflows which are more than 10 lakhs should go via workflow. All purchase orders which are less than 10 lakhs should go via the manual route. Okay, so that's the guys things from first principle. Please tabulate what is included, what is excluded, because if you tabulate everything into scope, then your scope will explode. Instead of 3 months, which it should take according to the contract, it will take probably 6 months. You already missed the bus. Okay, and it will delay the project tremendously. Plus, it will increase the cost substantially. Do we want to do that? No, we don't want to do that, right? Okay. Second principle is mention the key salient success factors. So while you say, okay, we will automate the workflows for specific, values, all right, then your ask to the businesses, guys, I need the complete data of how many purchase orders are generated, which are beyond 10 lakhs every month. So let's say the purchase order are only five. So you have to do a automation for only three people, because effectively the volume of purchase order is not beyond five. If the purchase order are 200, you know that there will be a volume of purchase orders coming, and so your workflows need to be more robust. Okay, they need to be more well defined, well tested, well configured, etc., etc. So the idea is that you need to know that one of your success factors is if you get the entire data from your client, which gives a correct picture of what volumes of purchase order comes in. So if they are sharing all that with you, then you have accomplished your principle number 2 as well. Okay. Third part, you need to draw clear boundaries of existing and proposed systems, which means today the client has a certain system landscape. Okay, and now they are expecting you to, let's say, bring in certain new functionalities. Fair enough. So those add-on functionalities will go and sit in their current landscape systems. So what I'm trying to say is, guys, there has to be a clear demarcation between what is existing in their landscape and what additionally needs to be built in their landscape. Okay, so that on the, again, this is all related again to the scope, so that there's no misunderstanding that you will be developing more than what you are asked for. Many times, guys, why am I insisting that point is, stakeholders have very large expectations. So when the business analyst comes in, they think that, now the business analyst is going to run their magic wand and correct all their business issues. But obviously you understand, right, that that's not a possibility in the limited scope of project that we have been given. Okay, so in order to contain their expectations and not expect something more than what you can deliver, please use these three principles very effectively. Okay, let's come down to again another discussion on scope creep. We understood scope creep last time, right? And we realized that it's a unusual, gradual, progressive increase of project scope without any control. Yeah. Check out the cartoon on the left hand side. The engineer has already put up the foundation of the building. He's already put up 3 floors. And now the chief engineer walks up to me and says, "Hey, is it too late to add another 4 floors?" It's not a Lego piece, right? That you can just simply increase another 4 floors. If you're wanting to design a building with 8 floors, its foundation has to be way deeper and stronger than a building which has only 4 floors. Yeah. But here, guys, the client is exactly according to this chief engineer which has walked up. And what you see as the engineer is no one else but your business analyst. So if you see the vendor here, the blue colored guy, the vendor is basically a service provider, which can be people like you and me. Yeah. And the customer is what is handing over requirement after requirement after requirement, which is tremendously increasing the project scope, which will never get delivered on time within the project's boundaries and cost. Of course, cost scope creep can be costly. It can run into cost overruns, it can spoil the project timeline of delivery, it can spoil the scope, it can spoil the schedule. So, guys, be on your guard. Never accept scope more than the project scope, because solution scope has an unbelievable capacity to keep expanding, because the stakeholder will keep loading requirement after requirement on top of you. But the fact is that majority of business analysts have encountered this animal. In spite of long experiences, I still encounter very ugly scope creep problems at a lot of my projects. Yeah, never mind. We will learn how to deal with it. So points to remember here, guys, is keep stakeholders engaged for any change and set up a change control or a change management process in the Hey guys, I think I'm audible now, right? Yeah, I just lost the corporate to. Yeah, good. Okay, we are good to go. We are good to go. I just lost the connection for a minute. All right, we'll Hey Jitendra, can you hear me now? All right, mic test one two three. Mic test one two three. Yeah, okay. Hey guys, sorry. Today the connectivity is really haphazard, man. I mean, it sometimes really goes and comes and all that. But never mind. Okay, so let's keep going. Yeah. Okay. So we are discussing right now the game plan that we have to control an animal like scope creep. Yeah. So guys, when let me discuss a little holistically. You said, I'm at some stage of my project and then, I have a scope creep. My first question will for you will be, unless the stakeholder really wanted to screw you up, they wouldn't have planned for the scope creep, right? See, stakeholders in all their good intentions don't want to go beyond scope because they also understand if they give you more and more and more scope, it will be undeliverable, right? So let's, with all the noble intentions, let's assume and hope that the intention to complete the project on time is same on both sides, your side as well as stakeholder side. So my first question to you will be, did you stay engaged with the stakeholders right from beginning so that you can take a categorical check on any add-on requirement which is coming in which is not linked to your current scope. And second, did you introduce them to the change management process right in the beginning? Did you introduce them to the baselining process right in the beginning? So guys, transparency helps. When you meet your stakeholders within a short period of time in the early stage of the project, ensure that you give them a good, clear understanding that what is the baseline scope beyond which we will not step out. If that understanding to them is given right in the beginning, typically the probability that scope will go out of the project scope is normally difficult. So staying engaged, keeping the expectation in control, whether voluntary, involuntary, whether they like it, they don't like it, is going to help you to contain your scope creep. Okay, as we continue, guys, ahead, uh, I want you to basically also know that there are certain deliverables expected from a business analyst. Some of them are in the early stage of the project, some of them are towards the end of it. As I think we briefly mentioned that once you complete the project, you're able to sign off on business case. You're able to complete the detailed build up of all requirements. You're able to give them a high level solution design, etc., etc. All of them come together into one big deliverable called business requirement document. In short, BRD. Yeah. But towards the beginning part of the project, let's say you've done about 30 to 40% of the timeline, you have a deliverable called vision and scope report. Okay, that is something which you have to give to the client as a initial understanding of the project that you're going to do. And what you see on the screen are the different components of that report. There's an executive summary, there are some initial uh, detailings high level on their current state. It's a little bit on the target state. There are certain assumptions. There you list out some clear dependencies. You list out some clear risks. You list out some clear proposed budget which you think you will need to implement the project obviously in joint discussion with your project manager. Yeah. So this is the initial state of the affairs, because right now you have not stepped into details of requirement illustration, requirement management planning, okay, and all the related areas. You haven't really stepped into enterprise analysis. You haven't stepped into high level solution design with IT teams. You haven't stepped into making a business case for their stakeholders. But what you have done till now is understand their initial mission and vision part, how to incorporate or superimpose that on the requirements, high level requirements that you see as of now. Okay, understand their business pain points and draw a basic process flows of their as is processes. Do a bit of basic high level gap analysis depending on what aspirations they have to go until where. That will automatically become your business gaps. Yeah, so as is process flow plus business gaps should give you what we call a target state. Okay, now as you might like to be careful, but the fact is, what is your ultimate weapon to counter the scope creep? Obviously guys, it's the change management process. And again, change management means I have a certain fixed scope. If that scope goes beyond that scope, because you are giving me additional requirements, it will trigger a change process. So change process is nothing but when you get additional changes, you need to trigger a process which will keep that addendum scope beyond your baseline so that your existing project timelines, project cost, project scope are not disturbed. Okay. Because the changes to an existing scope is so prevalent that business analysis industry was forced to bring out two different detailings or plans or approaches within the change management process. One change management process is called plan driven. Yeah. Here, at least you have a certain heads up. You have a certain forecast on the changes that are coming in. And through this approach, you seek to ensure that the changes only occur when they are genuinely necessary. So, what I want to say is, hey, changes are bound to come anyways, but there is a certain method to the madness. I will call it plan driven. Yeah. And if there is absolutely no scope that you can forecast the changes, then we will stay put. We will say, okay, guys, we will have a change driven approach. Since it's impossible to identify the requirements which may or may not change also in the beginning itself, we will rather go acclimatize to the change driven approach, which is nothing but in a way your agile approach. Yeah. So in a waterfall, you plan everything. You say, all right, there are, let's say, likely going to be 20 requirements. 20 requirements is likely going to be kind of implemented by maybe 1,000 man days. That's the mota, that's a broader scope of my project. And yes, changes are inevitable. So some changes beyond our control will genuinely occur. And we have to take them into an addendum scope via change process. Okay, so that's the plan driven part. So if you see guys in plan driven, each change is often handled as a small mini project. Yeah, because typically in waterfall or in plan driven approach, the changes which come in are rather large. Okay, and hence change process is very successful in plan driven approaches. Yeah, and honestly in change driven there is generally no separate change management process distinct from the selection of requirements for a given iteration. Now remember, since you are already agile, you've already factored for the fact that 60% of initial requirements are going to change. That is why you are running it in an agile mode. So if you are agile now, if you can incorporate, absorb, sustain, yeah, changes at any point of time in your project, then you don't need a change management process, right? Hence, the idea is that for waterfall methodology projects, you need to have a change process, and in that the approach will be plan driven. Okay, because if it is change driven, it will automatically shift into agile mode. All right, let me introduce you to a very interesting concept called business rules. Okay, business rule guys are rules as it says, and these are the rules which are taken as protocols or kind of protocols for running the business. Let me give you a simple example. You remember 10 years back we didn't need a PAN number. Whatever amount of money you wanted to deposit in your bank account, you used to walk up, deposit that money to the front office banker, personal banker, and then that's all the end of the story. 10 years back, or I mean something like that, a Reserve Bank of India made a business rule. any deposition more than 50,000 rupees will need a PAN number. You know the motto behind that, right? That if people are depositing cash more than a X amount of money, this means we need to track that cash as an input so that we can trace back that input to a likely source of that money, which could be constitutional or unconstitutional. Yeah. So that time I remember the entire banking industry went into an overdrive, to create this business rule as a business requirement in their systems. Today, you walk up to your personal banker, you want to deposit 60,000 bucks, for example, you'll fill up the forms, etc. But you have to mention your PAN number. The personal banker, when he'll open your home screen, okay, and he will input an amount more than 50,000, automatically the 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 field PAN number will become active. So he has to necessarily punch in your PAN number, otherwise the transaction will not go forward. So what is it, guys? It's a business rule which has been effected to contain a certain objective. Yeah. So if you think about it, guys, business rules are actually nothing else but actually they are business requirements only. It was a requirement of the bank now, every bank, from an individual like you and me, if they want to deposit more money than 50K, then they have to carry the PAN number and they have to punch it. And what's the reason? Very simple. RBI or any bank, in fact, RBI will run a report, for example, couple of times in a year, which will track which is the individual which is making consistently high value cash deposit in his account over the last period of few months. Because RBI wanted to pick up that report and send it to the IT department saying that, guys, these are the potential guys whom you might like to take a check with, right? This is probably a simple story of business rules, but the point is, for you it is important because business rules exist in every organization, and guys, they are potentially the hottest virgin territory for you to go and pick up your requirements first. Many times their business rules will need to be changed, that becomes your requirement. Many times their business rule will need to be bought in new, that becomes a requirement, right? And typically, the good thing about requirement business rules is they don't take much long to be framed as a business rule. Sorry, as a requirement, because there's not much of discussions, right? There's no as is, to be, process flows, etc., etc. Normally, these are regulatory procedures. These are these are there because of a certain compliance. In order to fulfill that protocol of the organization, you generally create a requirement out of this creation of this business rule. So if I look at the holistic picture of business rule, what's the purpose? The purpose is to assert a business structure or a control or control the behavior of the system. Unless you put a business rule, you know, uh, the system will not adhere to the fact that anything beyond 50,000 should not get processed in the system. Second thing, business rules are inevitable. They always exist in a system. Whether there is a new solution coming, not coming, whether you're transforming some business process, technology, or a combination of both, doesn't matter. Business rules are there, they exist, and they will continue to exist. Third part is most interesting. What is the nature of these business rules? Where do I find these business rules in an organization? So, guys, it includes a definition, for example, that of a deposits above 50,000. It takes care of a certain calculation. It could be a security control. It could be a range, number range. Yeah. For example, when you log on to Amazon.com, you have to create a user ID if you're a first time guy. Yeah. In that, the password you need to create is typically a mix of alphanumeric. It's a business rule because they want you to create secure passwords. Why? So that tomorrow there's no risk and fraud happening in the Amazon transactions. Because if it happens for you, you as a customer will suggest that the payment gateways or the security aspects or the data integrity aspects of Amazon.com is not secure enough. One small feedbacks like this from a couple of their potential users can create havoc, and they can really bring down their business value. So, long story short, business rules are potential requirements. Look at them carefully, assess them carefully to see that what change you may like to bring in into it if asked by business, which creates a direct business value. All right. Is there a thin line difference between business rules and requirements? Let's see. Business rule is like a criteria. It's like a condition for making a decision. Business requirement, on the other hand, is what you need to do to enable the implementation of the system so that it is compliant with that business rule. So, business rule is a definition. It's something what you need in the system. Hence, it's a requirement. But the actual requirement is probably the execution of what you need to do to install that business rule in the system. Yeah. So in a way, they are the same. In a way, they are a bit different. Because one thing is clear, business rule is not really a very, I mean, of course, you have to execute something to build them up in the system. But otherwise, it's more like a definition. It's more like a rule. It's more like a calculation. It's more like an if and but condition that we write for a certain macro, for example, right? I, it's a if and but condition what we write for a simple query. But I just want to let you know there are multiple varieties or categories of requirements. Uh, they are different in nature, and one of the variety of requirements is business rules also. Yeah, just to draw your attention on that. I think this is an activity which we'll come to later once we understand business rule a little bit more. Then I think as a group we can discuss what is the essential difference, if any, by taking some examples. Hey guys, do we take a 5 minutes kind of a bio break? Yep. Okay, let's take a 5 minutes bio break, freshen up, come back. Sid, you can call it a tea break. I don't mind, provided that in in 5 7 minutes, guys, you can manage a tea for yourself. It's a good idea, Sid. Actually, I'll grab a coffee for myself as well. Okay, guys, 6:17. Let's report back at about 6:25 odd, so that we can continue for next 35 minutes. Yeah. All right, guys. I tried very hard to come at 6:25, but honestly, guys, it was Sid actually who kept telling me, "Hey, take it easy, man. Make your coffee a little more warm. I mean, grab a sandwich or something." So, if we are starting at 6:30, it's thanks to Sid. Okay. All right. All right. All right. Good. Okay, guys, come back. Come back. I want to take you into something which is see, I keep saying it many concepts, right? That guys, this is a very important, significantly important aspect about your journey, which you are going to begin after a few months from now. But I'm afraid I have to say that if any topic concept deserves your better attention, not only attention, the way you would understand it, and honestly, the way you would implement that in your case studies when you create the deliverables, and I would be able to see through all your deliverables to give you a categorical input that where I think you're right and where I think you are not giving enough caution and detailing to the topic. One of those topic, guys, is called risk assessment. Yeah. Typically, I beg your pardon if I have to say that we don't come from a civilization which has been very, very careful to assess and analyze the risks. And I think we have paid a price for that, right? I mean, we have been ruled over by invading forces since last couple of decades of centuries. Yeah. And I will, of course, there could be 1800 reasons for that. But what I want to say is that typically we don't plan so meticulously so as to clearly see what could be the upcoming risks and plan some remedial actions for the same. Okay, I mean, all I want to say is that when I work with Western people, I worked across Germany, Stockholm, Finland, US, and Australia, and I realized that whether they are capable more or less, but some of their fundamental principles are very strong. And I'm talking typically not only the business analyst community, I'm talking about everybody else. They generally try to assess the risk part of their projects very well. Because you know what I mean, right? Operational challenges can come anytime. Okay. But when the operational challenges will graduate into a bigger, uglier form and that will become a risk for the project, it's something which you need to identify. Because, guys, you are the foundation setters of the project. So it's only in the initial times which larger risks come up. It's not that risks don't come up in the later phase of the project, but in the initial phase, larger risks come up. Okay. So that is where typically, you need to contain them in the beginning. If you let them grow, they eventually kill you later. Okay. So risks can negatively impact any one aspect of your project, any one or multiple aspects. It could be time, cost, scope, quality, anything. Okay. Now, when I say give me a little bit more details, I would say risk is unknown or it could be known. Okay. But then there is a gentle, larger part of the story called uncertainty. So, uncertainty is the larger universe, risk is a smaller part of it. So, all uncertainties are not risks, but all risks are definitely uncertainties. Uncertainties gives you a margin. It could be a killer, it may not be a killer, but risk can be a killer. Golden principle for business analysts: all projects are risky. And risk management, guys, include a lot of processes that focus on one, planning for identified and analyzing risks. Remember, I did not say identifying and analyzing risk as an activity. I said planning for the same. Because typically what I've seen amongst the business analysts is on the go, they will keep identifying and analyzing risks, but typically they don't do it with the plan mode. Because they don't do it on a plan mode, they do it more extempore, more haphazard, more on the go. That's where they typically miss the complete universe of risks. And any risk which seems very innocent tomorrow grows in the shadow, either on the stakeholder side, either on the scope side, either on the skill side, either on the technology side, and suddenly explodes one day. So one, we plan for it. Second, we actually do the assessments and analysis. Third, we control them. Yeah. And the most important part is, guys, any client you will work on, they will definitely expect you to be doing all this, whether you like it or you don't like it. So publication of some kind of a risk register, some kind of a risk dashboard, where you clearly bring out the risks for related to the project. For example, SMEs from business side are not available for any discussion. It's a huge risk. So then what is the plan you have? What is the plan B? What is the backup plan? Maybe the plan B is that we will have to rely on the documentation of the client side, right? I mean, of course, we read one of the golden rules that human dialogues, okay, cannot be replaced by good documentation. But the fact is, you have no choice. So either you keep crying horse on this risk, either you go ahead and plan a plan B. You need, let's say you go into a project where you have to do a gap analysis, right, for a very large project. That project has, let's say, 530 processes because they belong to different areas: procurement, purchasing, sales, finance, business intelligence, and so on and on. Now you don't have a single document which clearly showcases that what is the uh, what is the the detail of each process, right? So how the process flows, what are the different components of that? You can't do a process flow drawings for 500 processes, right? It's a huge risk. Lack of documentation leads you to a clear first visibility of the first view of the things is gone. Yeah. Now it leaves you pretty much in a little helpless situation, because frankly, how much of 518 processes the business can take you through, right? So that's the idea, guys, where we have to be careful. What are the risks, and what I as a business analyst have to bring up at a certain point of time, so that the negative impact of the same, when it is felt, does not come back to me and catches my throat. All right. Besides that, obviously, it will impact the success of your project as well. But many times, a lot of things get traced back to the business analyst in case they have been rather inefficient. And that is something which we don't have to follow through. Okay. By the way, there are some positive risks as well, which means you take a risk and it turns out to be the one with positive outcome. Okay. And then otherwise, typically risks are associated with the negative outcome, but that's not true. Many times when you don't know to go left or right, following either any kind of SME guidelines, or doing some rather discussions with a different set of people, etc., right, you will come to a conclusion whether you want to go this way or that way. Now if it turns out to be a positive outcome, that's like a positive risk that you have taken. If it turns out to be a negative outcome, then obviously it was a risk with a negative impact. So when you analyze, dissect a risk, you need to just have the right rationale or the assumption based on which you are taking that risk. Okay. So, and that's where, guys, when you plan, then it gives you the liberty to decide and identify how many of likely events are going to happen in the next course of action, which is going to bring out certain clear threats or risks on me. Whether it is a solution design of an automation process, Yeah, whether it is a transformation exercise for, let's say, a client which has been thoroughly on very legacy kind of technologies, and now you're trying to bring them into modern technologies, you're bringing into a more consistent ERP. Yeah, and currently let's say they are sitting in a disparate technology work, where there are, let's say, 50 odd technologies, all doing very small value add to them, but they have to manage the whole landscape of 50 technologies, because they have been running for last 20 years. You take a calculated positive risk of combining all those technologies, functionality which they assume or do, into a single one. So let's say you have 50 technologies. Three are responsible for financial reconciliation. Yeah. Three of them are responsible for month end closing. Four of them are responsible for plucking and extracting the data from multiple modules in order to consolidate it into a single report. Now, honestly, guys, why do we need a multiplicity of technologies like that? Right? On a single platform, we can have a probably few technologies we can do all this. For example, let's say if we say we have SAP, right? So SAP as an ERP is able to care for all modules. SAP as an ERP is able to care for all your business intelligence, business warehouse, data warehouse, okay, including all your processes as well. It is able to care for your payroll, your compensation, your plant processes, and etc. 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 So when that is the case, I would rather decommission all those 50 applications or technologies and rather bring them all into SAP. I'm taking a positive risk. So there'll be a larger discussion whenever you are with the stakeholders, because you need to explain your business principle this way, right? So obviously articulation will help a lot, okay? But the fact is that the level of effort that uh, you have to do here is equivalent to the actual level of risk and importance of the project. So what I'm saying is accord, or give a defined level of you know defined level of respect to the risk as per the impact it can cause, because behind each risk mitigation there will be a certain thought process coming from you, certain action coming from you. Since you will have plenty of risks to work on, you rather rationalize and optimize the kind of effort that you have to want to put in for different risks. Okay. Oh, sorry. So I'm sure somebody intelligent among here is curious enough, all of you are curious enough to ask me, Mukraj, you're talking so much about risk, so much about impact, so much about how to treat that. But what are the sources of risk? From where do actually risks come in a project? And I will club all the reasons and sources under three broad categories. One, and the biggest one of them, is called assumptions. So let's say if I want to walk up to one of you, right? And I want to create a relationship, right? But I'm coming to you with the pre-baked information that you are not congenial enough to be friends with. So I'm coming to you with an assumption without trying you out. Okay? I can say that the probability that I'll actually end up being great friends with you, or you'll end up actually becoming great friends with me, is very low, because I'm coming with an assumption. That assumption will always not let me put in my best effort and energy towards creating a relationship with you. So, guys, this is a larger truth. Assumptions are often the things which end up screwing the things very well. So, you assume something, it becomes a risk next day. So that also means, guys, that it's okay to take assumptions in a project, but you have to take very qualified, okay, and very validated kind of an assumptions, okay, with some of your stakeholders should have been able to do that. So, long story short, you can't take random assumptions just because your gut feel says so, just because your observation says so. You can do that if there is no chance for you to take any qualified assumption from any qualified source. Okay, so don't rely on your assumptions, it rather can be risky. Second is your dependency, now which is obvious. if I'm dependent on, let's say, Dipin and Mazbean to do a certain important work for me, day-to-day affairs, I mean, if they are, let's say, absent for 7 consecutive days, it's a huge risk. So I have a dependency on them. Okay. So dependencies often bring risks in your business analysis portfolio. Typically, what happens is, guys, when you go to a client, there is not just one or two vendors. There are multiple vendors which are responsible to sustain the technology support or business process support for any client, because those are third party vendors which have their own proprietary codes. They have some very specific kind of devices which have been used, which are being used by the client. Let me give an example. Let's say there's a third party vendor which supplies sensors, yeah, to a refinery. Now refinery is governed and controlled by sensors, as we discussed in the small example in the beginning of the session. If some sensors go wrong in the actual refining process of the crude petroleum, then control tower will not get a very clear information on the actual temperature, pressure, etc., which should be kept in the refining part, right? What will happen is the likely output of the product will go wrong, so the petrol diesel fractional distillation which you will get will not be up to the mark. Now it's all right. I mean, if the sensors have gone wrong, they can be replaced. But since there's a clear dependency on the third party provider, which will come and install the new sensors, etc., it tends to become a risk. Tomorrow, I am very careful when I go to a client where there is a transformation journey which has to be done, but that involves multiple vendors to come together. Because the client today, right? Suppose they use barcode guns to read the data for all the material which is incoming and the material which is outgoing, right? Because the barcode gun reads the data from the barcode and immediately integrates that, uploads into the system and integrates that with the mainline data repository. Now the barcode is supplied by a third party vendor. Now let's say if my barcode gun goes wrong, or let's say I'm involving a big project where the barcode is a significant portion of the change phenomena. So you can imagine that I have to work together with the barcode gun vendor, because the proprietary codes for the gun working, the barcode gun working, is with them. So more and more dependency on multiple vendors, okay, creates a risk. Similarly, guys, there are constraints, but constraints are more logical. These are plain challenges. Yeah. So if the environment is hostile, if the environment is offering challenges, okay, from a technology aspect, from a people aspect, from a retraining aspect, okay, then obviously that's a risk. For example, I think I told you about that one project where I failed miserably was, and the project had to be scrapped after the entire build up. It's not because we didn't do the design correct, it's not because we didn't do the requirements correct. We built up the requirements very well, we tested it out with the user, everything was fine till the time we went live. After we went live, when the actual users stepped into the system, they somehow felt that the new user screens, user interfaces, new integration fronts, new applications that we have created for them, you know, they found it very difficult to understand. We kept doing training, retrainings, and multiple other things, but somehow it never could conclude. That's where the users rejected our solution. Now, if you ask me what became my risk, I'll be very honest, guys, that during the requirement phase, I was involved with them, but after that, I never looked back at them. I never gave them a heads up what kind of functionality we are developing to ease their life, what kind of solutions that we are building to address their requirements. Somehow, the solutions that we built were so complex that the users just could not fathom it. Also, from the fact that they were sitting in some legacy applications for last 15-18 years, which is very simple application for them. We collapsed all those applications into a single big ERP, okay, and then we expected them to use that system. We did trainings for them, we created user manuals for them, but somehow they didn't like it, they couldn't acclimatize, they couldn't adjust. So what happened here? So my inability to socialize the solutioning perspective with the user in the initial stages of the project, okay, because I took an assumption that whatever solution that we are building eventually will be able to create detailed training programs and all that stuff out of them, and we'll train the user. So what is the big deal? So my idea was to create a solution and then train them. Unfortunately, it went the other way around. So Anchal, that's a good point. That what happened in the user acceptance testing. So in the user acceptance testing, what happened that we were sitting along with the users. There, unfortunately, the objective of the testing was very narrow. Just check with the user that the testing outcomes are positive. Yeah. So that time the user did not get a full view of the solution, but because we were exposing them only to limited processes. So let's say sales process, test it out, delivery process, test it out, invoice processing. So if we run, let's say 50 deliveries automated, do they get converted to invoices very, very quickly? So yes, they do. So we gave them very, very isolated glimpse of the solution. So probably that was obviously my fault as well. So it all that thing clubbed together to become a huge risk, which eventually finished the project. Yeah. So this could be a good example for you to just appreciate that how challenging transformation journey is obviously a risk, but if you take invalid assumptions along with it, then you screw up big time. Okay. So guys, you need to be careful on risks. What do you do? Very simple. I'll give you this solution. Draw a matrix, x-axis, y-axis. Okay, on the x-axis, you're putting the impact of the requirement. Oh, sorry, I'm so sorry. The risk. On the y-axis, you have the probability of the risk. Now, there are multiple areas. There are risks which have high probability of occurrence, but they will have low impact. There are risks which will have very big impact if they happen, but their probability of happening will be very low. Yeah. So then there are risks where the probability is high and the impact is high. Okay. So for example, if I am a enthusiast for aeroplane rides, right, and I want to drive a small charter plane myself, if I'm trained less and I still want to ride it, I would say it's a high risk because the probability is very high and the impact is always going to high because I'm not going to survive the 5,000-meter crash. Okay. So what you need to be careful of is risks which have high probability of occurrence and high probability of, high impact that they will leave behind. Okay. So low probability, high impact. Okay, that's what you see here. Yeah, so the impact is low, but the probability is high. Yeah. Okay, so Jitendra, you're saying is it similar to priority? Not really. Business priority is separate or business criticality is separate. This is basically the probability is probability of occurrence. So let's say if Jitendra, you are let's say somehow still the most eligible bachelor in the town, the probability that you will get the right girl today evening, I would say is probably rather low. Because the reason is that in order to get a companionship, we either rather have to work on it, right? We get to know someone, we get to understand them better, and then slowly the understanding develops further. So getting a boyfriend or a girlfriend is a long drawn exercise. So the probability that you'll get it today evening is rather low. So the probability of occurrence is what I'm talking about. So many times in the projects, you are clear that probability of occurrence for change management process to kick in is very high because I know these buggers, these users are famous for bringing add-on requirements, in every project. If that is the probability which you already know because you have a certain information about it, you will categorize that as a high probability. And obviously if they are adding requirements, if they are small time requirements, the impact is medium. If it is a large requirement, the impact is high. So that obviously will get into the extreme, this red zone, high. So guys, in all your projects, be very cautious about risks which have high probability and high impact. Category number 2, high impact, medium probability. Category number 3, medium impact, high probability. So the red zones is which you have to be careful about. And guys, this is the kind of slide which I want you to publish in all your projects, from henceforth. You can place here, for example, in the high, what is the risk? So write down that risk in that quadrant, write down the other risks in each quadrant, and show them that the amber or the yellow color risks are something which are not, like they can be probably contained. You need some help. Green is something which you don't have to worry about, but red are the ones which are critical. So show these risks to all your stakeholders so that they know that one, that Jitendra is making very deep efforts to identify the risk. He's heads upping us all the time. Okay. So this means that Jitendra was able to heads up and flash these risks right from the beginning. So tomorrow, if some kind of a big time problem happens, typically the risk, the blame will not come on Jitendra, for example. Yeah. So it's also for your safety net. So Siddharth says impacts based on severity like showstopper, system failure, etc. Yes, of course. Yes, of course. So when I say impact, I say, hey, what kind of a show-stopping event did that risk translate into? You will say, for heaven's sake, Mukraj, we did not tune up my databases for the last 4 months. What happens if the entire database went down? It collapsed, and my whole business processes are down. And you know what? I'm going to take about 48 hours of constant working with a team of 10 people to get it up and running. So what happened to Siddharth's landscape? It just went into a terrible downtime. Why? Because his database was not getting tuned. Why? Because Siddharth's database, because he's a global client, they clock probably a million, kind of a million sales order every day. This means at the end of 1 month, when they are done with 30 million sales orders, they need to archive it. But of course, there was no archiving strategy. So their database kept piling up and getting clogged, and one day it just collapsed. That's a showstopper. So depending on the business impact, yes, Sid, that's how what you say is the impact. So impact is the business impact, yeah, and probability is the probability of occurrence. Okay. Oops. Hey guys, are we good here? Yeah, see, our continual gain for now is on the basics. When I'm able to quickly plant all the basics in your minds, then is when I'll step into the next level of discussions. Again, they will be session driven like this, but they will be probably a little bit more case study oriented. It will be a little more thought provocative. I don't want to provoke your thought unless I'm able to enable you with those thoughts. Yeah. So currently we are doing the business analysis module. It's going to run for at least 50 hours. We have clocked 12 hours for now because I think we did 3 days. We will do another 4 hours tomorrow. Yeah. So when we do 16 hours, we'll say, okay, maybe 1/4 of the module is complete, right? Because a large part of the story will time is also going to taken up by case studies, etc. So never mind. I think we are going not too bad. And I think I like the speed at which we are going. It's a little bit slow. I have to catch up a little bit more on it, but I'll do it probably from the next sessions. So, okay, guys, good being together. So shall we meet up at tomorrow afternoon, 3 p.m. and continue with our business analysis planning, scope and vision? Yeah. Okay, so Savan, the question is brilliant, but it needs an equally brilliant answer, which unfortunately needs some time also. I have another meeting starting at 7. So what I'll do is I'll attend to your question first thing tomorrow at 3 p.m. and then we'll get going. So please copy paste this question because I want this to flash for me tomorrow as well. I won't kill the screen for now. I'll just keep it alive, but let's see. But tomorrow let's publish this thing and let's go forward from here. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you very much for your constant attentions. Yeah. Talk to you tomorrow then. Good for now. Take care. Bye bye.